a university with the University of New South Wales, and so I couldn't help embedding some kind of educational learning component into tonight's event. I teach when we do pitching classes for some of our earlier stage startups. We talk about something called the Gaddy pitch or an elevator pitch, which is basically in the time it would take you to get from the bottom to the top floor of a building in an elevator, how do you explain what you do, or how do you talk about your company? So I've kind of, very last minute, I sprung this on our judges as they arrived. Last minute asked everyone to give their own personal Gaddy pitch, so their elevator pitch about what they do. So Jenny, I'd like to start with you if you don't mind.
All right, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny. I was the international student myself 8 years ago. When I come to Australia, you can't believe my English IELTS test, I only got a score of 4.5. So I was like in the stage in the language school for a long time than you. So if I could speak and in here, I believe you can do better than me. And right now, I'm running a company called Belong, and we service international students in New South Wales, Victoria, actually also in Auckland, New Zealand, and New Zealand, and also London for international student housing and other support. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. So Jenny. And now Vivian Fan, who is the head of education at Golden Education. Vivian, do you want to tell us your Gaddy pitch? What do you do?
Okay, I'll try. Hello everyone, my name is Vivian. So you'll know that for a lot of international students, especially Chinese students who do accounting and finance subjects, but they don't have a very clear view of what their career would be. So for Golden Education, what we do is we provide financial education trainings to these students, and we also provide them with a very clear mind map as what kind of career they can lead to. We are actually a company based in China, and this year we expand our business to Australia. Sydney is our first step because we know that there are a lot of international students here, and this is the market that we are targeting, and we are very excited about.
Thank you so much, Vivian. So I'd like to welcome Ariel Sher, who is the CEO of Sydney Protocol School. So welcome, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ariel Zhu. I came to Australia 9 years ago as an international student. So when I first came to Australia, I didn't even know how to order a pizza. And the guy over the phone was asking, do you want a margarita? I was asked, what's margarita? So I had no idea, but now today, after 9 years of hard work, I improved my English. I network a lot. So, you will have the chances if you work really hard. So a bit about myself. I'm currently the CEO of Sydney School Protocol. We help people become more polished, confident and professional. A lot of international people, especially students, after graduate, they don't have the critical social skill, and they don't understand Australian etiquette. For example, how to write an email, how to handshake, how to introduce yourself, and how to dine over the table. So a lot of business are actually happening on the dining table. So we help with all this soft skill and social business etiquette, and we partner with the University of Adelaide and also Bank of China. So yeah, we help people in all these soft skill trainings. So that's my story.
Thank you so much, Ariel. So Jeremy Grunfield, who's the head of student experience at Inside Sherpa. So I do have to make a quick plug. Inside Sherpa is one of the amazing startups that has gone through the UNSW Founders 10X Accelerator program. So for any UNSW students here tonight, this is how far you can get down the line.
Yeah, and to echo exactly what Tash said there, we would be nowhere near where we are today without the 10X program and without UNSW Founders. So huge thank you to Tash and the team at UNSW.
Thank you.
Just to repay the plug. So you know how it's really difficult for university students to get internship experience and to build practical skills to kickstart their careers. We saw that problem and we built a platform where every single student all around the world, irrespective of where they are, what they study, what they earn, what background they come from, anything at all. There are no factors to stop them from getting experience. So we partner up with world-leading organizations like Deloitte, KPMG, JP Morgan, General Electric, Citibank, and the list goes on, to give students the opportunity to do virtual internships with these organizations. Students can gain practical skills to kickstart their careers, and can actually have the opportunity to stand out to these companies and secure in-person roles.
Thank you. So I'd now like to welcome Justin Wasnage, who is the CEO and founder of Sydney-based tech startup Vloggy. Am I pronouncing it correct?
You are, but
Vloggy, great.
I don't care about pronunciation. But Vloggy is fine. So basically, you know how video is complex and costly? Well, we invented a whole suite of tools that make it really easy for businesses to source and create video content from their customers, colleagues, or communities. And this means that actually 620 million Facebook pages will have their own TV channels, automated and decentralized through our system.
Thank you. So I'd like to introduce Carlos Ferry, who is I'm going to have to read this one, CEO at Zappler Corporation and also the founder of ShipEasy. So your Gaddy pitch, please, Carlos.
Yeah, 10 years ago when I came to Australia was literally to learn English. I couldn't speak really a word. When I immigrated from Brazil, then my question was, okay, what do I do? Because everything I used to do, I used to talk. So anyway, I started working for a company, then just doing deliveries. Probably after 8 months, I went there and I said, your customer service is beep, because my English wasn't that good, right? So I used the word I remembered. And she said, your English is beep. So 4 weeks after that, I bought my first truck. And then 10 years in Australia, now it's all history. So there's a Pala Corp umbrella, 7 companies, 100 employees, offices in Australia, Singapore, and Brazil. And I had a massive night on Friday that I was awarded the Young Entrepreneur of the Year. So believe it.
And a man who needs no introduction, Terry Hillsberg, who's a venture capitalist and also on the board of New South Wales Education.
Study New South Wales.
New South Wales.
Yeah. I'm the representative of the aged pensioners of Australia here tonight, and I'm a venture capitalist by trade, but the relevant point is that I've been involved in international education since 1998, and most importantly, today I'm a venture capitalist in a firm in Shenzhen. And when we look at in that firm, we do a number of things, but we also do sophisticated blockchain and AI development. And most of our developers have had an education in Australia or in the UK and some in the USA. So we are in the business of finding returnees and bringing them back to form teams in China. And then we also have some teams in Australia complementing those teams based in China. But it's all based around the international education system and what it delivers. So I see firsthand all the time how some of the hottest Chinese startups are basically based around international students. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Terry. So for those of you who kind of picked up the theme, the Gaddy pitch, the structure, just in case you want to use it for your own startup later, is the structure is, you know how, insert problem here. Well, we created insert solution. So therefore, tell us about the impact or the what's in it for me for your customer. So everyone kind of here talked about their problem and their solution and how that impacts their customers. So thank you for doing that little exercise with me, everyone. I'd now like to turn to you, Jeremy, to ask you to tell us a little bit about how Inside Sherpa is making accessing internships easier. As we all know, almost every university degree has some component of a work integrated learning element. And even for domestic students, landing an internship can be really difficult. So how is this helping international students land an internship?
Yeah, as you touched on there, Tash, getting an internship, no matter who you are, is extremely difficult and extremely competitive. So we wanted to make it as simple as possible and reduce the barriers to that. So our platform, you can literally sign up, create an account in a minute and have access to a full suite of 25 plus different internships with world-leading organisations, and they're all completely free. I touched on a couple of them before, companies like Deloitte and KPMG, companies like Commonwealth Bank and ANZ, Accenture and Boston Consulting Group, and so on and so forth. What it essentially allows us to do, it empowers students to put their best foot forward by actually demonstrating their real practical skills. It's not about which university you go to. It's not about what marks you get. It's not about your background. It's about your actual practical skills. If you can demonstrate those practical skills, these companies want to hire you. We're an education technology platform in the sense that we help to educate the students and give them an environment where they can try out these skills and develop these skills. But we're also an HR platform in the sense that companies are looking for students to hire. So we have countless examples of international students who come onto our platform, demonstrate superb practical skills, and actually get hired at world-leading organizations. So it is really, really fantastic. And that's why we do what we do, because it brings that just joy to our eyes when we see students that get an opportunity when they mightn't have in the existing system.
Thank you. So Ariel, you yourself, you're an angel investor, and you also were previously the director of SOGAL, which for those of you who haven't seen SOGAL, it's a organisation that helps support millennial female founders. So you know a little bit, and you also have a fund yourself. So you know a little bit about investing in early stage startups. What is it that you look for in an early stage startup before you invest?
I think for early stage, the founder, the personality of the founder is very important because your idea will change after. Especially early stage, your idea will gradually shaped by the customer's response. So it's the founder who never gave up, who are very open to learn and who are willing to take challenges and who are really like just never gave up. Like sometimes they are very psycho, they just follow you like, really like has this delusion, I want to do this, and they really believe in that problem and they are solving a real problem rather than just, oh, I want to be a founder. Like it sounds fancy, or I want to just make money. Like they really believe and want to solve the problem. So it's a founder, yes.
Absolutely. And we always talk to people about how you need to be in love with solving the problem, not with your solution, because often many founders find that their first idea probably isn't the best idea. And then if you don't love the solution, you won't go back and fix it. So good to know, Ariel. Thank you. So Carlos, as you mentioned, you just won the Sydney's Young Founder of the Year. And obviously this was a recognition of your work as a founder yourself, but also as an international founder. What do you think is special, unique about international student founders here in Australia, and why do you think they receive significant recognition like yourself?
I think to begin with, everyone needs to understand that when you come, in that case, to Australia to learn a language or to do a uni, you need to understand that you can't forget who you were before. In the same way, when you actually step into Australia, you need to die for your old self. What I mean by this is, when you're here, you really need to learn from the ground up. So you need to learn the culture, you need to learn maybe the language, maybe, meeting people at the university that you've never dreamed of. But what I think people like most is that not giving up attitude. I mean, you're already here, so you already made a decision that pretty much more than half of the world, they would never leave their own country to go elsewhere. And if you don't understand that, people won't look at you as like, yep, that guy can do it. So in my case, for example, if I said, oh, she didn't like my English, and I was just crying, I'd say, yeah, I'm going to give up, and then I'm going to go back and wash cars, which was my first job in Australia. So probably 10 years later, I don't know if I even know I was going to be in Australia. And even more, I don't even know if you could understand my English. So I had to tell myself, and no one else, I had to tell myself, I know who I am. I know who I am. Every single day. You know how many days I cried, for how long I cried when I arrived in Australia? 6 months. Every single day. You know, I was crying because I thought I actually gave up my life and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do properly. Not because I was alone, it's just because I thought I made a mistake. You know what happened to me when I bought my first truck? I didn't know what registration was. I had absolutely no idea. So I put all my money to buy my first truck. You know what happened to 2 weeks after that? I ate noodles in the morning for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. You laugh now, but I have a packet of noodles at my table for me to look at every single day when I get to the office to understand that if you want to do something, you just don't stop dreaming, you just ask people about it. Like when I actually, in my second month, what is GST? I've got no idea. And the accountant's like, what about your BAS? Who is BAS? That's how I start up my business. So don't wait to be perfect, but don't forget who you are. So that's what people look at us, and that's when they really see, what you said was just amazing. We were just talking about that before. People don't invest in your company. They invest in you. The government, they don't care about your business. They care about you. That's who they care. The university, correct me if I'm wrong.
I would agree with that.
Right?
Thank you, Carlos.
That's what it is.
Thank you. Very inspirational, actually. Now, Jenny, so you obviously started Belong, which is currently one of the fastest growing student accommodation service platforms and also one of the most innovative. So tell me about what kind of sparked your passion to solve this problem, which again, a little bit like internships, student accommodation is damn hard if you're a domestic student and even harder if you're an international student. So how did your passion to solve this problem get kicked off?
Well, I guess every story starts with personal things, right? Like when I first come to Australia, I got my accommodation. I don't know if it's called luck or unluck. I got it anyway in Marrickville, a single room with shared bathroom. Someone's house looks super weird, a corner store on the stage. And in the end of the day, anyway, I only lived there 1 month. In the end of the day, I find out why the landlord wants to rent to only Chinese, international, female, good-looking girls. Because he wants his son find a girlfriend. Okay, and it's super weird. He called us very weirdly. And he stopped it because I told him my father is a senior police officer in my hometown. Which is true, my father is a police officer. And anyway, so like after my own personal experiences, I heard a lot of my girlfriends or guy friends tell me what happens on them. And I know lots of people here, at least you were a student in the university, are you? Or you still are. How many of you can stand up and tell me you have in-campus accommodation right now? 1, 2, any more? And how many people we have in here? I count the presentation about like how many percentage of it, right? So that's why we started this business, because we're finding out all our university, our government, they're great. They really want to help. However, this is Australia. It's not China. It's not have that much population can support them with the certain work. Like the growing market for international education been growing too fast, out of anyone's expectation in Australia. So like they did all the best they can do. And thanks for USW, you guys did a great job and even partner with Belong now to support our international student in New South Wales. And also we've been...
You'd think I'd paid this panel.
Well, anyway, so that's why we started, and that's our partners. Like we support by all the great university and the government department, and also HHQ. Like they basically eat us. Even my team is too loud in the office. That's it.
Amazing,
Thanks.
thank you. And thank you for helping so many people. I know it's a real struggle finding good, safe accommodation sometimes. So Vivian, so Golden Education is currently one of the largest financial education training service providers in China and launching now in the Australian market. How has the company's market strategy changed coming to Sydney?
Well, I think there's a lot of change in terms of how it works in Australia compared to in China. So in China, it's just, Jenny mentioned, like the population is not a problem. So we have 7,000 employees for our companies in China, and we can do a lot of marketing work by just showing people on the street and then just to give out the leaflets and then to do the posters. Whereas here in Australia, labor is expensive. So we have to change our marketing strategy. And so one thing we do here is we actually collaborate, because our target market is very specific to the Chinese students who study commerce degrees. So what we do is we collaborate with a lot of associations, particularly these Chinese associations at universities, and we would do a bit of like seminar and workshop at the universities to tell them about the career paths as what they will be facing after they graduate. One thing I realized is that when I collaborate with these associations, I ask them what kind of activities you do before, and I think most of them will be just very leisure activities. So they do parties and they do organize, so for example, a singer contest for the students. However, they don't provide enough educations and they don't provide enough workshop for the students. But for the students, I think the challenge they face is after they graduate, they have a very like a lot of students who come to Australia, they enjoy their life, they have a very good degree, but when they face the stage as they graduate, they always feel very difficult and they feel very challenging because they haven't got very prepared during their studies. So that's what we enter and that's what we are trying to do. So we want to prepare them during their study to think about their career, not just after they graduate, but before they graduate.
Yes, very good. Thank you for that. So I'll go all the way back to Terry at the end there. So Terry, as you mentioned before, you've been working with Study New South Wales since, was it 1998, did you say?
No, with international students.
With the international students. I'm sorry. And how long have you been working with Study New South Wales for?
4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. And so what drives your passion to give up your time to work with Study New South Wales and with the international student community?
Firstly, I should say, by the way, Vivian has not mentioned that she herself is also an ex-international student from an Australian university who went back to China, was recruited to run this company, and her company is the fastest growing company at Haymarket HQ. She's gone from 0 to 12 seats in 4 months. So what interests me about the international student market is obviously, Peter can't mention it, but I can. It adds about $1,500 per person in Sydney, in every person in Sydney, man, child, woman, in Sydney's back pocket. This is a major industry, and it is sort of acknowledged in the psyche of people in Sydney, but this is real. If the international student industry disappeared tomorrow, the citizens of Sydney would have a big problem. This is simple. And it's not just about that, it's also about what we're here tonight about. And my passion always, I've been a venture capitalist and a company founder since 1987, so that ages me. I've founded 4 companies and I've raised over $200 million and invested it. But the key thing has always been that since 1987, migrants and international students have been at the heart of some of the fastest growing and most significant companies in our economy. So for instance, in Sydney, there's a corridor out to the northwest, which includes all our biomedical companies. And one of those companies is a company called Cochlear. And Cochlear, which is internationally famous, was established by a migrant called Paul Traynor. And I had the great joy of sitting at my kitchen table and helping him get that company off the ground. So my point is that migrants and international students have always been at the heart of the things that grow in Australia, because bottom line is that the old white guys like me, we get lazy as we get old. We no longer have enough drive to make things happen. And so we need fresh people, not just people born here, but other people who need to survive, like this gentleman. So that we can actually get a bit of life in our economy. And the last thing I'd say about this is that the thing that's different about the diaspora that we now have from India and from China and increasingly from places like Brazil is that they are here in large numbers and they're well connected back into their societies because they come from an international student background, as opposed to being people who are just very poor and had come to Australia. This is totally different than the post-war period of our Australian economy. We just have if you've got 1.2 million people of Chinese background in Australia, that means there's connections into every city in China. including graduate connections. Same into India, same into Brazil. This is different and it's the future of the Australian economy. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry. So, now, Justin, you've had a pretty impressive career that has seen you working in, I'm going to have to read this, the USA, Canada, Singapore, France, Belgium, London, and now Sydney, now Australia. So I was hoping you could give us a little bit of a comparison of the startup scenes in all those countries I just mentioned, maybe pick one or two, and just compare them to the Australian experience that you've had as a founder here yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, I haven't founded companies in any of those countries, so it's sort of hard to. But I do know sort of some of the situation, and to sort of pick up on Terry's point, really, if you were founding a company anywhere, you wouldn't do it in Australia. Is kind of because it can be very conservative, and especially in the area of raising money. There's a very small capital pool, and actually, with the exception of Terry, who was actually open to new ideas, I found we raised $250,000 in January, and we're raising $500,000 again now. And our lead investor is Fijian. The second largest is Vietnamese. There's an American. There's I don't think there's any Australia. I mean, many of them are Australian citizens, but I don't think there are any actual kind of traditional Australians in our list of shareholders. I might be wrong. And really, because when we went to sort of shareholders, a lot of the potential investors, a lot of the questions were, has anyone done this in America? No, it's brand new. What we're doing hasn't been done anywhere. Oh, well, find a company in America and copy it, and that's kind of what we want to invest in. And there's a lot of that, and it's just sort of, it can be a little bit frustrating because when we try to, and we also find actually that the talent pool in because again what we're trying to do is brand new. We're taking video production costs from like minimum $7,000 down to $70 or sometimes even free by automating the whole process. And we haven't written any of the rules around it, right? So we don't have the documentation to actually do it. And we found that maybe, I mean, who knows if we haven't looked hard enough, but sometimes the students that the younger people who we're trying to get on as either interns or junior developers, they're expecting a certain process, like, okay, where's the documentation, where's this, where's that? We said, well, you've got to write it. And we've found more flexibility in mindset of overseas students, overseas people. I mean, even tomorrow I'm interviewing some people for front-end devs, and the candidates, the one is from the Ukraine, one is from Algeria, and another one is from Senegal. Now, who knows how they'll turn out, but definitely I think this kind of open mindset sometimes doesn't exist in Australia. I do some research policy work for the University of Sydney. I know that's the competitor, but still,
We love them all, it's okay.
I'm a part-time, well, not very part-time at the moment, research fellow there. And I always make this joke that quite often in politics in Australia, people say, we've looked at the rest of the world, which is code for we've looked at what they do in Britain. Or we looked at what they do, we've done extensive research in the rest of the world, which means what they do in the UK and Canada. Yeah. And then I used to do a lot of policy work. I used to be a director of a policy shop. And I happen to speak quite a few languages, so I would kind of do research looking at what they do in Brazil or what they do in, anywhere where there's a good idea. And the worst is if you ever said, this is what they do in New Zealand. People in Australia would often say, well, what would they know? And there is a kind of sort of mentality that unless it's done in Britain or Britain and Australia, Britain and America, it kind of isn't an idea worth, not from the bulk of the population, but a lot of the people in power have that kind of view.
Yes, I somewhat agree with that. I really do. I think it kind of also goes back to what Carlos was saying about the open mentality perhaps of international students or people who have an international background, is they are the ones who've had the get up and go to leave their comfort zones, right, and come here and try something new.
Someone asked me back there, Carlos, but how do you have all these companies? So until my third company, I was the only investor. I put from my own pocket $500,000. So if you want to create a company, I'm not going to swear here, But seriously, you don't wait for people to put money in your company. You put yourself. So in my case, when I actually raised capital, people were like, oh, you know, and I said, look, I don't need your money. I really need you to help me to go to the next level. If you bring money, fine. But if you don't, it's fine as well. I can actually put my own money, keep putting it. So just, and that's one, like, I wouldn't leave Australia. But that's what I'm going to tell them. And I said, I don't need your money. And when people bring you money, like good money, which is what we call the sweat, it is true, the sweat money. That's when it's not just the cash itself, but that's advice, that's help, that's go to his kitchen and, you know, and listen to him. So that piece, that's probably worth more than the money that he's putting into your business. I mean, I'm not saying you're investing, but
Absolutely.
I kind of just did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will end our wonderful panel discussion there. And I just will say, you know, I do agree with Justin. Australia is can be a really hard place for startups and especially for raising capital. So I will take my hat off to the New South Wales government for initiatives like the Sydney Startup Hub. I love going there. I try and work out of there just one day a week just to bump into people because it's a great little melting pot, you know, and also spaces like this which do have some government backing as well. So we thank them for trying to rectify these hard issues that we are facing in the startup community here. So we're going to take a little bit of a break and then we're going to come back with our 7 startups, do their pitches. Go and grab yourself a drink, have any pizza if there's anything left from the hungry hordes who have been there before you, and we'll meet back here in about 10 minutes.